Kohan. So may we give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generation of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahazikner shel Shabbat. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. Let there be joy.
Let there be light.
Let there be peace.
Let there be Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadikeh shel Our opening song is L'Chadodi. The words, both in the Hebrew and in the English transliteration, meaning the English version of the Hebrew words, can be found on page 66. I know we have some guests here tonight for the first time, and it may be a little daunting to you, but at least if you don't get the words, you can sing La La. That's an international language. Please join me.
Together to strengthen our bonds with our people Israel. And like the Jews of generations past, sons to make over the Israelite community, and eventually in time became the job of the high priest, and to this day in the traditional synagogue is done on festivals and on holy days by those who are Kohanim, those who are the descendants of the priests. Do we have any Kohanim in our congregation? Okay. So, you know that the Kohanim traditionally were to never enter a cemetery unless it was for the burial of a very near loved one. They were only allowed to go on the perimeter of the cemetery, so that they would not make themselves impure, is the way the ancients understood it. They also had the honor of being the first ones called up for the reading of the Torah in the traditional synagogue. And on holy days, as I mentioned, in something that in Yiddish was called duchanan, they would gather at the pulpit or in the center of the congregation, raise their talesim over their heads, and would bless the congregation. Some of you know this, that the symbol they would use was to make the Hebrew letter Shin with their hands to spell the first letter in the word Shaddai, one of the names for God, the Almighty. And, Leonard Nimoy is fond of telling the story that when he was in Star Trek and was Dr. Spock, and they said, well, wouldn't a Vulcan have a different greeting? I don't know if any of you remember Star Trek, the real Star Trek, but he thought back to his own upbringing, and you remember this thing that the Kohanim did. He said, well, how about this? And so this became, to the rest of the world, the symbol, international symbol for the Vulcans. And to us became, live long and prosper, right? It came from the Jewish blessing of the Kohanim. And you know, you were never supposed to look at those Kohanim when you were being blessed. It's because at that point they were not supposed to be like ordinary humans. They were supposed to be a little bit higher and exalted. And you know that in Reform Judaism, we did away with the hierarchy, the caste system of the synagogue, and democratized it so that anyone may be called up, men as well as women, and those on any strata from the ancestral Jewish households. This evening, it's my pleasure to invite up for the Aliyah Lois Manasso, who became Bat Mitzvah last Saturday morning during services here at the temple. And I asked her beforehand if she still remembers it, and of course she does. And we have some visitors here who are members of a Christian study group, the People of God prayer group. And so I wanted to ask, if you'd like, you're welcome to stand behind me and take a look at the Torah scroll and see how that looks. May God bless you and protect you, keep you. May God's face light illuminate upon you, and may God's presence be upon you. May the radiance of God's face rest upon you and grant you with a wholeness, with completion, with a sense of peace. Samu et shmi al bnei Israel, v'ani avarachem. And you shall place my name shall be attached to the children of Israel, and I will bless them, and will be to them for a blessing. This occurred at the very time, the very day in which Moses was preparing the finishing touches on the tabernacle, by Yushach Oto, by Kadesh Oto, and when he was consecrating and sanctifying the ancient tabernacle, they had called Elah and all the ornaments and implements that were within it, all the ritual objects. They had HaMizbeach, they had called Elah, and specifically the altar and all of its ritual instruments and utensils. By Yushachem, by Kadesh Otam, so that he had consecrated and sanctified the entire space, all that was in it, by Krivu Nesiei Israel, Rashi Beit Avotam, and they're gathered close to him and to that holy place. The chieftains, the anointed ones among the people of Israel, the heads of the ancestral houses, and the Siei Hamatot, those who were the chiefs of the ancient tribes of Israel, and Ha'omdim al Pekudei and Pekudim, those who were responsible for taking the census, for counting their very numbers. Vayavo et karbanam b'fnei Adonai, and there they brought their offerings to give before God. This year we will honor in a few moments' time Deborah Zimmer, who is here with her family. And some in the front, and I see some in the back there. The two children, Daniel and Jeremy. And we also have with us this evening our new executive director for our temple, Robin Siebler. Robin, can you stand up for a minute? And Robin began last week, and she'll be at the Yomig afterwards so that you can introduce yourselves to her and welcome her. And also with us this evening is Beverly Rochelle, who is our Membership Services Coordinator, and she will be here as well. And really as a way of giving tribute this evening, we are going to listen in a few moments to some remarks from Dr. Robert Hirsch, our temple president. And then we will hear later this evening, too, from our honoree for this evening. I direct your attention just before we do that to your Sabbath insert in your prayer book of events coming up in the life of our congregation. There you will see a couple of things that are important. Sunday is Israel Independence Day, and in our community, the celebration will take place at the Jewish Community Center. They have been working for months on this celebration. It should be wonderful. You have all the information there. There will be plenty of auxiliary parking. We invite you to go, and if you're there, to find our information booth and point others who might be interested to that booth as well. There you will see that on Wednesday, June 14th, we will be putting a mezuzah on the home of our new executive director, and the congregation is invited to attend that as well. If you've never been to a mezuzah hanging service, you will love it because it's very short and very nice, and consecrates a Jewish home. And finally, you will see that on Sunday, June 14th, at 4 p.m., we will dedicate these 12 panels along with the 3 panels in the foyer. These will be filled by next weekend with our new stained glass windows, and we have invited the entire community for that celebration. And during that afternoon, we will dedicate the windows. Members of the Levin family will speak. Rabbi Gittin, who married Sid, and Jenny Levin will speak as well. And we have commissioned a piece of music on the theme of the Garden of Eden that will debut on that day, and it will be sung by Rachel Michaelberg, our soloist, and by Stephen Guggenheim, who is our alma mater as well. We are his alma mater as well here. So it should be a wonderful afternoon. We invite you and your attendance. And of course, you want to stay afterwards for the annual meeting at 6 o'clock. It's my pleasure to invite to the pulpit Dr. Robert Hirsch to share remarks about volunteers and about our honoree.
Shabbat Shalom. Tonight is the second annual Volunteer Shabbat. In the beginning beginning this new tradition of honoring our volunteers at a Shabbat, we felt that we needed a special time for this honor to the people who have so generously given their energies to the temple, and Shabbat really seemed like the most appropriate time. The time of Shabbat when we are closest to our Jewish heritage. Those members who we will honor tonight, who have given countless hours to the temple, have done so, I'm sure, for many reasons. Each reason unique to the donor. But running through all these reasons is the concept of love for the temple and for Judaism. And I feel I can say that because after all, there are many places that these people could volunteer besides here. The point is that they've chosen the temple. And they have chosen to give of themselves so that we all can flourish and grow in the Jewish spirit. So I wish to thank all the volunteers for their work. I thank them not only personally, but on behalf of the Board of Trustees. The names of each volunteer are listed in the handout that you received tonight, so that I'm not going to name them individually, but rather will call out the various activities in which they were involved. And I'm going to ask you, those volunteers who have been involved in those activities, to please stand and to stay standing until I've completed the list. In spite of our efforts, if you have been a volunteer and your name has not shown up on the list, please stand up anyway. As a token of our appreciation, you will all receive a pen that will be available at the Shalom table during the Only Shabbat tonight. Now, I'd like those volunteers who have been involved in the various categories I'm going to mention. And it's a long list because there are a lot of you, even though many of you may not be here tonight. The office work, well, that means a lot of things. Stuffing envelopes for mailing, sticking on labels for the, there we go. Sticking on labels on the bulletin, answering phones in the office. Please stand up. On Sundays in the religious school, shmearing bagels on Sunday morning, room parents in the religious school, chaperones on a field trip, working in the library. Shy. What about making phone calls for the Brotherhood Blood Drive? Or working on the Purim Carnival? Slice a challah on Friday night at the Oneg. Joe, stand up. Sung in the choir. Worked in the garden on the patio. Served on a committee such as membership, religious school, ritual, long-range planning, and a number of others. Worked for Sisterhood Catering. Cooked for the homeless men during May. Helped on the community Seder. Worked in the Judaica shop on Sunday mornings, Tuesday afternoons, or on Friday nights. And ushering at High Holiday. I'm sorry Dave Levin is not here tonight, but I'll be sure and tell him we missed him. So, to all of you, I would like to thank you so much, because without you, we wouldn't be a temple, we just would not run. Thank you very, very much. What's that? What's that? Webpage. Oh, the webpage committee. It's really beautiful. Okay. Now, the second part of this, as the rabbi said, is that also we have started this, to give honor to one particular volunteer, sort of the volunteer of the year, you might say. A person who stands out, who is someone with whom everybody knows and knows that they're always there as a volunteer. And again this year, as we did last year, we honor the one outstanding volunteer. This year, it gives me great pleasure to award that singular honor to Deborah Zimmer. Deborah, would you come up here, please? I've been your president now for 2 years, and during this time, I've been fortunate, or perhaps there's a better word, I think the word is blessed, with the presence of Deborah Zimmer. Deborah's always been there to get things done, to give advice, most of which I took, and to support all the multitude of activities in which the temple engages. I truly feel that any success that I've enjoyed as president has been to a large part due to Deborah. Now, before I go into the description of her work here at Temple Emmanuel, let me tell you something about her. She was born and raised in the Los Angeles area. Her quick mind showed itself quite early, as she became valedictorian of her high school graduation class. Then she attended Reed College in Oregon. And any of you who know the liberal bent of Reed, particularly in those days, know that this experience just fit the activist personality of Deborah. Following college, she worked with a nonprofit organization, World Without War, and that went on for about 10 years. She then met Tim Zimmer. They married. They had 2 boys, Jeremy and Daniel. And she and her family joined Temple Emmanuel in September of 1992. At this time, she did not consider herself particularly religious, although she would always accepted her Judaism with enthusiasm. And then she became involved in Jewish educational opportunities here at the temple. And one day, Judy Podolsky, who was the educator at the time, handed her, as she described it, a purple brochure advertising Kollel, which is a 5-day Jewish summer camp for adults put on by the UHC that explores all aspects of Judaism. Being partial to purple, she enrolled. And it was really, as she tells me, a turning point for her and energized her Jewishness. Although she was very active in volunteering right from the beginning of her relationship with the temple, such as activities as being secretary for Judy Podolsky and later Dan Pratt. Following the Kollel, her work accelerated markedly. And since then, she has become the de facto secretary with the rabbi. She is the coordinator of volunteer activities. She has taken responsibility for getting our bulletin, the connections out, which means going after articles, gathering all the materials, and getting everything out to the arranger and the printer. Of course, these duties led to taking charge of communications as well, sending out notices of events to the membership, arranging advertising to local newspapers, the JCN. And did I also mention that she's a member of the Board of Trustees and serves on a number of committees? Now, during all these activities, particularly early on, she was president of the nursery school for both of her children when they were younger. And then as they grew, she volunteered to be on the search committee for the school superintendent, and finally active on the school district's long-term planning. Actually, I haven't mentioned everything she does around here, and I just don't have time. And I suspect there's some things I don't know about. All I know is that I can get information and ideas on most every subject having to do with this temple from Deborah. And if she can't help me, then she falls back onto what I like to call her network. Now her network, and I've met some of these people, the network are people who she has met in the various meetings that she has attended while pursuing her intense desire for more Jewish learning. I've heard about Merle from Arizona, Donna in Michigan, Sandy in Texas, Norman in Sacramento, Toby in San Francisco, with Deborah, who needs the UAC. So it gives me great pleasure to present to Deborah Zimmer the Volunteer of the Year Award. To thank you very much for what you've done for me and what you've done for this.
It says, all those who faithfully occupy themselves with the needs of the community will be blessed and rewarded by God. I'm assuming people around here says. I wrote it out so that I wouldn't get lost or devolve into tears or embarrassed. This is a special night for me, surrounded by my family and friends and many of my co-volunteers here at Temple Emmanuel. There are so many of you I would not know were it not for the things that I do here, like the mailing crews as we fold and stick and sort and bundle by zip code. I haven't been around on Sunday mornings as much this year, but I know that the bagel schmearing is very much appreciated. And I've also been lucky to meet many congregants who drop by the office during the week when I'm here as well. You are all my extended Jewish family. And we are all family. One of our confirmation students remarked on it last Saturday, how wonderful it was that he could talk about Jewish holidays with another Jew, or ask someone to help him build a sukkah. We are connected to each other and to this synagogue. When I had my bat mitzvah along with 9 other women 4 years ago, our Torah portion was by a Kel. The text contains the directions for building the tabernacle, the metal, the wood, the fabric, all the components. The contribution was not a requirement. Each person should give as his heart so moved him or her. It was the combination of these gifts from the heart that made possible the creation of something of use to the entire community. We spoke then in our Torah about how this willingness to give is exactly the spirit of volunteerism. Today's portion, Naso, which at 176 verses is the longest parsha in the Torah, also talks about offerings right after the priestly blessing that we heard earlier. In this text, one prince after another brings an offering. Each one is exactly the same as the previous, but is still separately enumerated. One dish of silver, 30 and 100 shekels its weight. One bowl of silver, 70 shekels, both of them filled with flour mixed with oil for a grain gift. One ladle with 10 shekels of gold filled with smoking incense, and a few animals. So if each day's gift was identical to the one before, why the word-for-word repetition? Why not describe it once the first time and then say, on the next 11 days, the rest of them gave exactly the same thing? Because there is no repetition without a reason in the Torah, so we are told. As later commentators point out, there was a uniqueness in each gift because it was brought by a different person. And that is true today. Each of us brings our own energy and spirit to the work we do as volunteers here at Temple Emmanuel. So here we have two portions concerned with gifts and connection to the larger whole. And as Bob pointed out, I really can trace my connection to this synagogue back to the time when Judy Podolsky handed